transition to Rachel Jefferson. Rachel is the outreach coordinator at Quindaro Family Healthcare, and I'm so grateful you're the second person to come in from KC to join us today. Thank you for getting in the car and joining us to share a little bit more about that intersection between food and health. Thank you.
Hello, good afternoon. First, I just wanted to say thank you to everyone who coordinated this day and the Ecumenical Campus Ministries for hosting this forum where we are able to share some of the issues that face our community and the activities that are making solutions possible. So thank you for being here. The injustices of poverty and distress in Northeast Wyandotte are overt. Every day is a challenge to forge a new identity for the area as a whole. Food nutrition in the Northeast area means more than informing people of healthy ways to eat. It has emerged as a means to alleviate our status as a food desert. I currently live and work in Northeast Wyandotte County, Kansas, which, as some of you may have heard, ranked 98 out of 98 counties in Kansas in regards to health factors. Some of the indicators that gave us that ranking include social and economic factors such as graduation, college, and unemployment rates, physical environment factors such as air quality, access to recreation and healthy foods, and health behavior factors such as teen birth rate and adult obesity. The correlation between these factors and our mortality ranking, 91 out of 98 counties, and morbidity ranking, 94 out of 98 counties, is obviously easily identifiable. What all those numbers and rankings mean is that we are facing an ever-ballooning health crisis in our community, propelled by factors we do not normally associate with health. I want to stress that although this data is current, these are not new or even surprising problems. However, what has not always been known is the connection between these factors and a community's health. With the light shed on the incidence of adult obesity, low access to food, and healthy well-being, organizations have begun to look at health and healthcare as quality of life indicators instead of viewing them in a box. We have begun to see a shift in the healthcare paradigm with practices looking at health as part of a comprehensive framework to building a high quality of life. Most significantly, there has been a change in what people think it means to be healthy. The nation is seeing an emphasis on comprehensively caring for one's health, and the national push is to encourage healthcare and service organizations to look at methods and practices to improve a patient's health before they ever walk in the doctor's office. Due to this change, some nonprofit healthcare providers have begun to take a holistic approach to patient care. They, like community, faith-based, and other nonprofit service organizations, are turning to community intervention strategies to tackle issues in the communities in which they are based. Some of these groups have begun to work together with collaborative strategies and support to create sustainable quality of life programs that achieve real-time measurable outcomes. I have the distinct pleasure of being able to work with several of these groups and the individuals that are the driving force behind the sustainable solutions that are outpouring from the community. I work for Quindaro Boulevard Family Healthcare and haven't been in my position for 2 out of the 3 years it has been open. In that time, I have become fairly well acquainted with the many facets of healthcare and community. Family healthcare is actually located within Faith Lutheran Church in the basement of the church, which is a cornerstone of Northeast Wyandotte. Both Faith Lutheran and Quindaro Boulevard Family Healthcare are within the boundaries of the Oak Grove Neighborhood Association, of which I am a member. Repeatedly, I have observed that by the time the patient makes it to the doctor's office, extreme measures are usually necessary to repair that patient's health. It is for that exact reason that Quindaro Family Healthcare decided to open up its programming to encourage patients to take the necessary preventative steps to protect their health. We collaborated with the church and community to bring exercise programming that the community and church wanted to the clinic. It was obviously not only patients who needed access to these preventative services, but we learned from speaking with the community and church leaders that the community residents and church congregants needed the same access to these preventative services. Attendance was high at the exercise programming, but it was just the beginning. We realized that if not accompanied by good dietary habits, exercising does no to little good for a person's health. Therefore, we installed our first round of nutritional programming, an 8-week cooking course taught by Harvester certified instructors, which is most likely one of the courses he was speaking about just a few minutes ago. Participants enjoyed the class and especially enjoyed the group cooking exercises as well as the free bag of groceries they received at the end of each class session. Each class was devoted to nutrition education, healthy recipes, and group cooking. To me, the best aspects of the class were the recipes that converted unhealthy favorites into nutritious meals by substituting certain ingredients. I can be a tough sell, but when I had the strawberry confection made with graham crackers and fresh strawberries, which was one of the nutritious dessert recipes, I was convinced in the program. Church members were obviously some of the easiest recruits for both the exercise and nutritional programming, which is not surprising given the close connection between mind, body, and spirit that most churches embody. The more we branched into other areas of programming, the more we noticed the need to change the cult of thinking around food. In the end, the easy choice is the preferable choice, and it is with that in mind that the clinic decided to purchase a vacant house adjacent to the church and install a grocery store. There was a great deal of information gathering before any work actually began on the house. In order to ensure that the store would truly serve the needs of the community, we held a series of focus groups and workshops drawing on patient, community member, and church congregation opinions on subjects such as what the store would sell, hours of operation, systems and procedures for grocery distribution, preferred methods of payment, etc. In fact, we undergo this type of rigorous, for lack of a better term, marketing research before we install any program in the clinic or the community. It is one of our best resources, this client and community and church member mailing list. We use this list not only to inform our community members of health fare and information, but we also access this list in regards to the client availability for the different types of programming that we have. And this ensures that the community will use the services that we provide. Because of our market research, we now have a concrete plan to serve nutritious foods at an affordable rate. One of the items that came out of this research is that our community members would like to buy local product, but because of the higher market price, often cannot afford it. Therefore, we are currently looking at options for stocking the store with local product, thereby supporting the burgeoning local food systems in Kansas City. Also based on community opinion, we have opted for an old school drugstore type of store model where clients can come in and choose from a list of product. While they wait for the person behind the counter to fill their order, they can sit and mingle with others in their neighborhood. In this manner, they will be provided with healthy food and be able to socialize with their neighbors at the same time. We also realize that even if provided, many would not know what to do with a raw, healthy product, as was just mentioned by, I think it was you. Therefore, we surveyed the community to see what type of nutrition education they prefer. From their feedback, we decided to install a demonstration kitchen, which we will use to teach healthy cooking practices along with other food preparation and preservation techniques, such as canning. We are actually counting and relying on the church congregants to teach many of these classes, as they still actively use many of these techniques. We have also opened a community garden in which any member of the community is welcome to take from the produce growing in the garden at that time. We have many church member and neighbors of the clinic who enjoy the fresh produce that comes out of that garden, and the clinic will also offer a store discount to any volunteer in the community garden or the store. More and more, data shows that community-driven processes are the only sustainable forms of action that truly influence and change a community for the long haul. Too many times, it is in the latter stages of the implementation process that the church and community are invited to the table. Oftentimes, the planning process omits them altogether. This is a grave mistake. The people who we serve are the only ones who can advocate for the services that will meet their needs. Our community is actively advocating for solutions to the food desert crisis. A prominent group of local pastors, reverends, and preachers recently met with the Kansas City Wyandotte County Mayor to advocate for a long-term solution to our food desert crisis, which they believed is a full-service grocery store in Northeast Wyandotte. After their meeting with the mayor, they came together and distributed throughout Northeast Wyandotte a petition for a grocery store. Neighborhood meetings, churches, and our clinic waiting room were avenues for dispensing this petition. We have yet to hear of the success of that petition or even how many signed it, but the momentum of the movement is exciting and inspiring. It will require a combination of many more short-term, intermediate, and long-term solutions to raise the quality of life of Wyandotte County residents. Cross-sector collaborations are becoming more and more popular as people look for these solutions. We are currently involved in multi-agency efforts that attempt to raise the quality of life. One such effort is a collaboration with the neighborhood, local churches, government agencies, and other public service entities on a large-scale community development and remediation project involving a local Brownsville John Garland Park. John Garland Park was a sanitary landfill owned by the unified government. When they capped the landfill, they put in a venting system to release the captured methane underneath the cap. The methane has been venting for the last 20 to 30 years. This is of obvious concern to the community clinic and the local churches, one of which is St. John's, is directly across from the landfill site. One of the items which the community working group for the John Garland Park once tackled is the possible reuse of this methane. Ideas for reuse have centered on building a greenhouse heated by converting the methane into a usable heating fuel. In that case, the greenhouse would function as an agricultural learning center and food production hub for Wyandotte County. Planning for remediation of such a large site with so many stakeholders is oftentimes a painstaking and sometimes frustrating process. The working group finalized a reuse plan for the site, and now the next steps are further feasibility studies, and those can take quite a long time. Instead of waiting, the Neighborhood Association started planning a prototype model of a sustainable aquaponics greenhouse. The clinic and church have advanced this endeavor with in-kind support for the planning phases of the small-scale aquaponics operation. We hope to accomplish several goals with the creation of this prototype greenhouse: sustainable wealth creation, neighborhood involvement, youth STEM education, and food production are some, but the overall mission remains the same: to heighten the overall quality of life for the residents in our area. Just to kind of explain what that operation is, if you didn't know, an aquaponics operation is when a submersible pump moves water and waste from a fish tank to a hydroponic grow bed that sits above the tank. And after filtering through the plant roots and the gravel bed, the water is then gravity fed back to the fish tank, and it's called a closed recirculating system. Some of you are aware of it, I'm pretty sure. The benefits of this aquaponics are numerous and will aid in our current and future neighborhood farm production. The amount of vegetables we produce currently on our traditional farms will multiply. It will lessen the impact on the community of inadequate food resources, and the hydroponics technique will give many of our current community gardeners the ability to grow year-round, therefore supplementing their food source and or providing added income. The aquaponics operation will serve several purposes as well. First and most importantly, it will provide a social entrepreneurship where the earning opportunity is knowledge. The participants, youth and adults in the community, will learn agricultural science skills by completing hands-on learning tasks. At completion, they will have learned a basic level of knowledge that some may even choose to broker into careers. In addition to agricultural, the participants will also study aquaculture. And over the last decade, numerous classroom-sized aquaponics have proven to be practical methods of enticement that lure your youth into the realm of the agricultural sciences. The Aquaponics in the Classroom program, one of the most successful components of the Agri-Science Education Project at the University of Arkansas, is one such program where teachers use classroom-sized aquaponics units to teach science and mathematics to youth. Disconnected from one of humankind's basic survival tools, today's younger generation does not know how to grow their own food, and our entire culture has lost touch with some of the most basic skills that sustained us up until this last century. One could argue that this gap in knowledge significantly contributes to unhealthy lifestyles because the farther removed one is from the original food source, the more likely it is that he or she is dependent upon something or someone for access to healthy food choices. The Neighborhood Association is also looking into more sustainable methods of food production, and it is for that reason that they applied for a Sustainable Agriculture Research and Education grant that allowed us to investigate less time-consuming and more effective methods of gardening. A large number of our neighborhood residents and church congregants are elderly and live on fixed income. Our goals for this grant were to start making a garden less labor-intensive and more cost-efficient, so that our elderly and inexperienced growers can more effectively use their limited resources to produce a for personal consumption garden. We are in the second year of this grant, which explores a new method of no-till growing, and we have outreach to several other growing groups to share the results of this project, and our hope is to make this no-till method a viable method for gardening. Also in the name of sustainability, the neighborhood association has begun the process of remediating the vacant lots that multiply daily within the boundaries of the neighborhood. Many of these lots formerly held houses, and the land on which the houses stood could be heavily contaminated with lead. Therefore, to even use these lots for food production, they first must be cleaned in order to not exacerbate an already large health crisis with further problems. Like I said, the health crisis of Wyandotte County cannot be viewed in a box. A multidimensional problem requires change at the grassroots and policy levels. The more organizations like Quindaro Family Healthcare, Oak Grove Neighborhood Association, and churches like Faith Lutheran and St. John's make sure they are at the table, the more lasting benefit is seen at the community level. So once again, I say to you, the only sustainable processes are the ones that are community-driven. We need more partnerships like the ones blooming in Oak Grove, relationships between faith-based community and nonprofit groups. None of these groups can afford to close themselves off from the others. I would like to close today by telling you about World Harvest Learning Center, a church in the heart of metropolitan Kansas City, Missouri, across the river from us. I have had the distinct pleasure of being able to meet and speak with Pastor Terry Glenn, the pastor of World Harvest Learning Center. Pastor Glenn and his congregation saw a need in their community and decided to meet their community's needs where the community was. From running a radio show and his interactions with community leaders and residents, Pastor Glenn realized that his community was a food desert. He knew that there was no place for the people in his area to have access to fresh, healthy food. Therefore, Pastor Glenn and his congregants opened a grocery store in their church basement. Staffed by church volunteers, the store is replete with refrigerators, freezers, and small but well-organized aisles. They stock regional organic produce supplied by a regional aggregator. A 100% match supplements the cost of their product, and they serve everything from organic milk to free-range chickens. Pastor Glenn also realized that along with nutrition, there was a need for wealth creation in the form of skill development for the youth of his neighborhood. World Harvest Learning Center began offering a paid internship for young people interested in working in a store. They have now successfully channeled some of their youth into the culinary arts. I think we can all agree that there is little more valuable than experiencing the pride that comes from a strong work ethic built on a good educational foundation. That is something which our youth of today also need desperately. I encourage all of you who are deeply entrenched in your communities to consider the possible relationships or partnerships available to help you further your short-term and long-term goals. How can you ensure a community-driven process in every project or program you implement? And how can you most effectively use your resources to ensure a higher quality of life for those on whose behalf you advocate? And again, I thank you for having me speak today. So I think, does anybody have the time?
Yeah, you've got about 10 minutes to get some questions.
Okay, yeah, I can take some questions if anybody has any.
The community garden that you first described earlier, do the people work in the garden who also take the fruits home?
Absolutely, if they want to. And
Is that a
then
requirement, or can anyone in the community?
anybody. It's completely free and anybody can come and get it. And even if nobody does volunteer, the clinic has provided a staff member that maintains the garden. And so we are actively trying to get more volunteers, and then the church members volunteer, but there will always be a garden there regardless. Yes?
In your last few statements, you were saying about the need for education for the youth. Has there been an outreach to the schools to offer curriculum that is focused on nutrition and healthy eating, how to can vegetables and fruits and so on that are grown? Because it seems like when our daughters went through, we're in our 70s, but when our daughters went through the schools, it was too sexist for girls to take it. So boys were going to be taking cooking, but the girls, instead of learning the basic skills, they were given woodworking. So our daughters never did take sewing or cooking. So we had to teach those things at home.
Interesting.
But I'm wondering now, is there a shift back to try to do unisex classes of doing the food preparation and learning about what healthy foods there are to eat?
I think there is a shift. I don't think that'll happen in the schools. saying how I don't even think there is a home ec anymore, and I'm pretty sure that they're trying to get rid of recess. So I think I've worked with a lot of groups that are trying to figure out how we can do things after school to get the kids involved. Anything in school, like I said, they don't have that time, and then they're very short on funds. So they're very tight about trying to put any direct programming into the classes.
But that avoids the question of trying to get science as part, and nutrition as part of the science units. Because it used to be health and science. And then more and more textbooks were leaving out the health part. And we're reaping that now.
Right, and I just think that if we want to see that, it's something we're going to have to create outside of the school. I think that trying to work with the school there's nothing wrong with that, and I have several programs I'm trying to get actively into the school, but I also focus on, right now we're doing a summer Learn to Earn program. We're going to have kids coming to our farm for 6 weeks out of the summer, and we're going to be teaching them that stuff that they might not be getting in the school. And I just think you have to be kind of practical and realistic about the fact that they might not get it. And so how can we as a community provide that support?
Yeah, I think that's very admirable, but to go back to the general science curriculum that the schools have to teach it. I was a teacher for 30 years in New York, and we had to have health units and nutrition units and things. So I don't know what the Kansas or Missouri curriculum is. So I'm not sure if any of the people in this audience know either, if that's mandated, that it has to be there, so that the teachers cannot say we don't have time for it.
It has to be, you're saying, you're wondering if it's mandated that they have to spend time on nutrition as well as science in their science programming.
That was always part of it.
That's a good question. I don't actually have an answer to it.
It's optional here, she says.
It's optional, okay, okay.
Because if the kids learn it at school and then practice it at home.
Oh, absolutely.
It'll have the double effect.
Absolutely, and it may be one of those things where, I mean, they're not getting tested on it, so the school's not pushing it. So,
Thank you.
anybody else?
I was curious about how many numbers of students were participating in those classes. What's the opportunities to participate in the garden and things of that nature? What the ethnic breakdown was?
You said how many were Latino?
No, how many, what the ethnic breakdown, is it all African American or what? But also just what the numbers were, an idea of what how many people would participate.
And the exercise nutrition programming?
Well, the farming.
Oh, the farming, okay. Sure, yeah, absolutely. Well, when we get the agri-science program off the ground, I assume we'd start with about 5 to 10 kids. This summer program that we're doing, it has 5 kids for 6 weeks. 5 kids is usually a pretty good number to kind of try to hang with, yes. And then as far as most of the classes that I've been involved in, or any of our volunteer activities, it has been mostly African American population. However, we have had a large influx of different ethnicities into Wyandotte County over the last few years, which includes Somali, Bantu, Hmong, Latino. And so it's another goal of the clinics and the neighborhood association and church is to be able to reach and bridge those ethnicities with each other so that we can all understand each other and live peacefully next to each other. Well, again, I thank you, and yeah, God bless.